The auction hall was louder than a battlefield. Lights burned bright above hundreds of seats filled with creatures from different worlds. Some were tall and armored. Some had scales. Others hid their faces behind masks. Money moved quickly in this place. Lives were sold here every day, and no one cared. At the center of the hall stood a large metal platform. Chains hung from its sides. A force shield surrounded it, glowing faint blue. The auctioneer smiled as another creature was dragged away, already sold to its new owner. The crowd clapped without emotion. For them, this was entertainment. Then the lights suddenly dimmed. The auctioneer raised his hand, and the noise slowly died down. "Next item," he announced, his voice echoing through the hall, "is special." A large gate behind the platform opened with a heavy sound. At first, people only saw shadows. Then she stepped forward. The entire hall fell silent. She was enormous, at least twice the height of a normal human. Her skin carried faint silver markings, glowing softly under the lights. Heavy chains wrapped around her wrists and ankles. Even injured, even tired, she looked powerful enough to break the platform beneath her feet. Some people leaned back in their seats. Others whispered nervously. Everyone had heard stories. A giant warrior woman from a species known for strength. A protector. A fighter. Someone who once destroyed an entire assault squad before being captured. No one knew how she was finally taken down, but the rumors were enough. She did not look at the crowd. Her head stayed low. Her long hair partially covered her face. She looked exhausted, not angry. The auctioneer cleared his throat. Captured beyond the outer colonies. Extremely strong. High endurance. Useful for combat or labor. No one raised a hand. The silence stretched. The auctioneer forced a smile. "We will begin at 50,000 credits." Nothing. People avoided eye contact. Some laughed quietly. "She's too dangerous," someone muttered. "She'll kill her owner," another voice said. The price dropped. 40,000. Still nothing. The giant woman slowly lifted her eyes for a moment. Not in anger. Not in challenge. Just a quiet look across the crowd. As if she already knew no one would choose her. The auctioneer's smile started to fade. 30,000. A few buyers shook their heads. Even wealthy collectors did not want the risk. Strength, like hers, could not be controlled easily, and fear always lowered value. Minutes passed. The giant woman did not move. The chains rattled softly when she shifted her weight. A small injury marked her shoulder, still not fully healed. For the first time, something like disappointment crossed her face. The auctioneer sighed. "Final offer. 20,000 credits." The crowd remained silent. Then, from the back of the hall, a hand slowly rose. It was small compared to the others. Human. People turned immediately. Some laughed in surprise. Others stared in disbelief. The human sat alone, wearing simple travel clothes. No armor, no guards, no sign of wealth or power. Just calm eyes watching the platform. The auctioneer blinked. "You wish to bid?" The human nodded once. The room filled with whispers. "Is he insane? He won't survive a day." A human buying her? For the first time since entering the hall, the giant woman lifted her head fully. Her eyes locked onto the human. There was confusion there, and something else, something she did not understand. The auctioneer quickly struck the hammer. "Sold." The sound echoed loudly. Just like that, her fate changed. Chains tightened as guards prepared to move her. Some buyers shook their heads, already expecting blood soon. Others watched with interest, waiting for the moment things would go wrong. The human stood up calmly. No fear. No hesitation. As he walked closer to the platform, the giant woman continued to watch him. Her expression slowly changed, as if she was trying to understand why someone so small would choose someone everyone else feared. The human stopped in front of her. For a brief moment, the noisy auction hall felt quiet again. No one knew why he raised his hand. Not the auctioneer, not the crowd, and not even the giant woman herself. But deep inside, for the first time since her capture, a small and unfamiliar thought appeared in her mind. Maybe this human was not afraid of her, and that scared her more than anything else. The transport ship was small. Too small for someone her size. Metal walls surrounded her, cold and narrow. The chains were removed, but heavy magnetic cuffs still covered her wrists. She could break them if she tried. Everyone knew that, but she did not try. The human noticed that first. Most buyers kept weapons ready after an auction like this. They expected anger, violence, escape attempts. But the giant woman simply sat on the floor of the cargo bay, her back against the wall, her head slightly lowered. Watching, waiting. The ship lifted off from the station, engines humming softly. Stars slowly appeared outside the small window. The human placed a food container near her, a step back. He did not come too close. He did not speak loudly. He just left it there. She stared at the food for a long time, but did not touch it. Maybe she expected poison. Maybe she expected punishment. This was how owners usually behaved. Kindness was rare in places like the auction hall. Hours passed. The human returned later with water. He noticed her injury again, the one on her shoulder. The wound was not healing well. She watched him carefully as he placed medical supplies on the floor between them. He pointed at the wound, then at the supplies, tried to explain without words. "I won't hurt you," he said quietly. She did not understand the language, but she understood tone. Still, she did nothing. The human sighed softly and sat against the opposite wall, giving her space. He did not force her to eat. He did not order her to move. He simply waited. That confused her more than chains ever could. Days passed like this. She ate only when he left the room. She drank water when she thought he was not watching. Every movement was careful, controlled, like someone expecting danger at any moment. The human noticed something strange. She never acted like a monster. She never threatened him, never tested the cuffs, never showed aggression. Instead, she seemed tired. One night, the ship's warning alarm suddenly screamed. Red lights filled the cargo bay. The human jumped to his feet, rushing toward the control room. A warning flashed on the screen, debris field ahead. Broken metal from an old battle drifted through space, moving fast. The ship shook violently. A sharp impact threw the human against the wall. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Another hit followed, stronger this time. The ship began spinning slightly out of control. In the cargo bay, a heavy container broke loose and slid across the floor, straight toward the human. He didn't see it coming, but she did. Without thinking, the giant woman moved. The magnetic cuffs strained as she grabbed the container with one hand, stopping at inches before it crushed him. The metal bent slightly under her grip. The ship finally stabilized. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of damaged systems cooling down. The human looked up, breathing hard. She was still holding the container, her arm shaking slightly from the effort. For a moment, their eyes met. She slowly pushed the container aside. Then she stepped back again, returning to her corner as if nothing had happened. No pride, no anger, just silence. The human realized something then. She could have escaped. She could have taken control of the ship. She could have killed him easily during the chaos. But she didn't. Later, as he repaired the ship's systems, he spoke quietly, even knowing she might not understand. "You saved me." From the cargo bay, she watched him. Her expression changed slightly. Confusion again, as if she did not understand why saving someone mattered. On her world, strength meant survival. Protecting others was duty, not choice. But this human looked at her differently. Not as a weapon, not as property, something else. That night, for the first time since leaving the auction, she slept without keeping one eye open. And the human realized the truth was far more dangerous than the rumors. The monster everyone feared was never trying to fight. The ship moved quietly through deep space. After the accident, something between them changed. The giant woman no longer turned away every time the human entered the cargo bay. She still kept her distance, still watched carefully, but the fear in her eyes was softer now. The human noticed she ate more regularly. The wound on her shoulder slowly began to heal. Trust was growing, even without words. One morning, the human entered the cargo bay carrying a small device. A translator unit. Old, imperfect, but sometimes useful between species. He placed it on the floor and stepped back, giving her space again. She looked at it with caution. The device activated, scanning her voice patterns from earlier recordings. The translation would not be perfect, but it was enough. The human spoke first. Slow. Calm. My name is Elias. The device repeated the words in broken alien sounds. She hesitated before answering. Her voice was deep but quiet. Kaila. The translator struggled, but the name came through clearly. It was the first real step between them. Over the next few days, their conversations were simple. Short sentences, careful words. Kayla spoke slowly, learning how the device worked. Elias learned to listen more than speak. That was when the truth began to unfold. Kayla was not a soldier for conquest. She was a guardian. On her world, the largest and strongest were chosen to protect cities and settlements. Strength meant responsibility. She had fought only when her people were attacked. Her capture had not been honorable. A trading convoy had asked for help. When she arrived, it was a trap. Energy nets, heavy weapons, too many enemies at once. She fought until she could no longer stand. Then she woke up in chains. Sold. Elias listened quietly. The story made something inside him feel wrong. She was never meant to be property. But the truth became darker. There's bounty, Kayla said slowly through the translator. For me. Elias frowned. What? She looked away. My people searching. A silence filled the room. If her people were looking for her, they would not see Elias as a rescuer. They would see him as a captor, an enemy. Before Elias could respond, the ship alarm suddenly flashed again. Not debris this time. A signal lock. Unknown vessel approaching fast. Elias rushed to the controls. A ship appeared on the scanner. Small, fast-armed. Not military. Hunters. Someone had tracked her. The ship shook as a warning shot passed close by. A message appeared on the screen. Return the asset. Payment guaranteed. Elias's jaw tightened. Asset. That was how they saw her. Behind him, Kayla stood up slowly. The ceiling barely cleared her height. Her expression changed, calm but focused. Danger was familiar to her. Another shot hit the shields. The ship trembled harder. They want me, she said. Elias shook his head. They're not getting you. The hunter ship moved closer, preparing to disable engines. Elias pushed the controls, trying to outrun them, but his ship was not built for speed or combat. The hunters fired again. This time, the impact damaged the outer hull. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Kayla moved forward, steady despite the shaking ship. She placed one large hand against the wall, feeling the vibrations, thinking. Then she spoke quietly. Turn ship. Now. Elias hesitated only a second before trusting her. He turned the ship sharply, flying straight toward a nearby asteroid cluster. The hunters followed immediately, confident. Too confident. Inside the cargo bay, Kayla braced herself. When the ship passed close to the rocks, she manually released part of the cargo locks. Large metal containers drifted behind them, creating sudden obstacles. The hunter ship crashed through the debris, forced to slow down. Elias pushed the engines to maximum power and escaped into open space. Silence returned again. Breathing heavily, Elias looked back at her. She had not smiled. She only sat down again, calm as before. But now he understood. She was not just strong. She was trained, experienced, a protector who knew how to survive war. And that meant the danger around them was only beginning. After a long silence, Kayla spoke again, her voice quieter than before. If we meet my people, they will not understand you. Elias looked at the stars ahead. He already knew, because to them, he would never be the human who helped her, only the human who bought her. And somewhere in deep space, more ships were already searching. Space felt different now. Quiet no longer meant safe. After escaping the hunters, Elias changed their course again and again, trying to lose any tracking signals. The ship moved through empty systems where no stations existed and no help could be found. Fuel was limited, supplies were running low, and the danger was getting closer. Kayla understood it before Elias said anything. The bounty hunters would not stop. Someone wanted her badly enough to keep searching. Every jump they made only delayed the problem. One evening, the ship lights flickered. Elias checked the scanners. Nothing appeared at first, just empty space. But Kayla stood up suddenly, her body tense. She felt it. Moments later, warning alarm screamed. Multiple ships dropped out of warp around them. Hunters. 3 this time. Fast attack vessels surrounded the small transport ship, cutting off escape routes. Their engines glowed like predators closing in on prey. A message appeared on the screen. Shut down engines. No damage will come to the human. Elias clenched his fists. He didn't believe that for a second. Behind him, Kayla spoke quietly. They want me alive. Elias turned. I'm not handing you over. Her expression softened, but there was sadness in her eyes. If I go, you live. Before he could answer, the first shot hit their shields. The ship shook violently. Another blast followed, stronger. Warning lights turned red across the control panel. Their shield would not last long. Kayla stepped closer to him. For the first time, she looked unsure. You should leave, she said. This is not your war. Elias shook his head immediately. You saved my life. I don't leave people behind. The words confused her again. On her world, survival came first. Sacrifice was duty only for warriors. But Elias was not a warrior. Another explosion rocked the ship. The shield system failed. Metal screamed as part of the outer hull tore open. Air pressure dropped slightly before emergency seals activated. The hunters moved closer, preparing to board. Kayla looked at the damaged walls, then at Elias. A decision formed in her mind. If she stayed, he would die. Without another word, she forced open the emergency hatch leading to the cargo airlock. The magnetic cuffs still limited her strength, but not enough to stop her. Elias realized what she was doing. Kayla, wait. She turned back once. There was gratitude in her eyes. Then the outer hatch opened. The hunter's boarding craft approached, expecting an easy capture. Instead, they found something else. Kayla launched herself into open space. Her massive form slammed into the boarding ship before it could react. The impact crushed its front engines. Metal twisted and exploded outward. The other hunter ships opened fire immediately, beams cutting through space. Inside the transport ship, Elias watched in shock. She was fighting alone. Even injured, even outnumbered, she moved like a living shield. She protected the transport ship, drawing fire away from it. Explosions lit the darkness around her. But she could not avoid every hit. One blast struck her side directly. Her movement slowed. Another shot followed, sending her spinning through space. Elias's hands shook over the controls. He could escape now. She had given him the chance. Instead, he turned the ship around. Engines roared as he flew straight back into the battle. The hunters did not expect that. A small civilian ship charging toward combat made no sense. Elias pushed the damaged engines beyond safety limits, flying close enough for the cargo tractor beam to lock onto her. Come on, hold on, he whispered. The beam caught her just as another shot passed dangerously close. Slowly, painfully, he pulled her back toward the airlock. The remaining hunters hesitated. Their ships were damaged, and their target was no longer easy prey. After a few tense seconds, they retreated into warp, disappearing into darkness. Silence returned. Inside the cargo bay, Kayla collapsed as the airlock closed. Burn marks covered her armor and skin. She struggled to breathe. Elias rushed forward without thinking. You're not dying, he said firmly. She looked at him, confused again. He had risked everything for her. On her world, strength decided worth. But this human kept proving something different. As her vision faded, one thought stayed clear in her mind. He was weak in body, but stronger than anyone she had ever known. And far away, beyond the stars, a much larger fleet had already received news of her location. This time, it would not be hunters coming. It would be her people. Kayla woke to the sound of engines humming softly. For a moment, she did not remember where she was. Her body felt heavy. Pain moved through her side each time she breathed. Then she saw the metal ceiling of the transport ship and remembered the battle. The hunters, the explosions, and the human who came back for her. She turned her head slowly. Elias sat nearby, asleep against the wall. Tools and medical supplies were scattered around him. He had clearly stayed awake for a long time before finally resting. Kayla watched him in silence. On her world, warriors were respected for strength. Leaders were respected for victory. But Elias had neither. He was not strong. He was not feared. Yet he had risked his life when escape was easy. She did not understand it. The ship alarm suddenly sounded again. Elias woke immediately and rushed to the controls. Kayla forced herself to stand and followed slowly. Outside the front window, space filled with light. Ships. Not one, not three, dozens. Large silver vessels surrounded them, moving with perfect formation. Their designs were familiar to Kayla. Smooth armor, long energy sails, symbols glowing along their sides. Her people had found her. Elias felt his chest tighten. Weapons locked onto his ship instantly. Warning signals filled the screen. A message appeared. Unknown human vessel. Release the Guardian immediately. Kayla stepped forward, her expression unreadable. They think you captured me, she said quietly. Elias nodded. Yeah, I guessed that. Another message followed, stronger this time. Failure to comply will result in destruction. The small transport ship felt even smaller now. Elias slowly removed his hands from the controls. He knew he could not fight a fleet. Not this one. You should go, he said calmly. You're safe now. Kayla looked at him, surprised. No reward, she asked. Elias shook his head. You're not something to be traded. For a moment, she said nothing. Then the large fleet began preparing boarding ships. Kayla stepped toward the exit hatch. Elias watched quietly, expecting her to leave. It was the logical ending. She would return home. He would continue alone. But before the hatch opened, she stopped. Outside, her people's ships waited, powerful and ready. Inside, the human who saved her stood alone. Kayla turned around. When the boarding party arrived, they expected resistance. Instead, they found Kayla standing between them and the human. Weapons lowered slightly in confusion. Their commander spoke through translation. Guardian Kayla, step aside. The human will be detained for questioning. Kayla did not move. He is under my protection, she said. The words shocked everyone, including Elias. The commander hesitated. He purchased you. Yes, Kayla replied. And then he freed me. Silence spread across the communication channel. She continued slowly, choosing words carefully so they would understand. When I was chained, no one helped. When I was sold, no one cared. He did not see a weapon. He saw a person. The alien soldiers looked at Elias differently now. Confused, curious. Humans were known for many things. Kindness was not usually one of the stories told in war reports. The commander lowered his weapon. You choose to stay with him? Kayla looked at Elias once more. This time, there was no confusion in her eyes. Yes. Elias blinked, surprised. You don't have to. I know, she said softly. That was the difference. For the first time since the auction, the choice was hers. The fleet slowly powered down their weapons. The tension faded from space like a storm passing. Before leaving, the commander spoke once more. To protect one who is weaker without gain. This is not something we understand. Kayla answered quietly. That is why humans are dangerous. Not because of strength, but because they chose to care. Later, as the fleet disappeared into the stars, the small transport ship continued its journey. No chance, no owners, only two travelers moving forward by choice. Across the galaxy, many feared giant warriors. But the truth was different. They feared what happened when strength met kindness. Because in the end, the giant woman was not saved by power. She was saved by a human who simply raised his hand when no one else did. Story ends.